Welcome to the Heart of the Matter, where on today's episode we have a special guest, a woman of many parts. She is TY Bello. You're welcome to the Heart of the Matter.
Thank you, sir.
I said you're a woman of many parts. You're into photography. You used to be a member of Kush, which was a gospel band.
Yes.
You've done so many different things. And so really what we want to know today is what started it all off? I know you didn't start out wanting to be a photographer, but you're probably one of the best photographers in the world today.
Wow. Thank you. I'm so honored, sir. I think I got born again pretty early. Became a Christian at 11. And so I started the quest for finding out why. I knew I was born for a reason, and I just didn't know what was different about me or what was unique about me, and I wanted to find out why I was here. And so I was a late bloomer. By the time everyone else was going into university, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. I had no clue. I was always confused. I would want to be a doctor today and then a lawyer tomorrow. But I guess it kept me praying and asking, maybe earlier than most of my peers, to find out why am I here and what are my unique gifts and talents. And I guess maybe those prayers have paid off somehow.
Okay, so now, what did you start with? You didn't go into photography to start with?
Oh no, I had no clue I was going to be a photographer. Before university, in fact, it all started with a broken dream. My dream after university was to go to America. You know how every Nigerian child in the 90s, you finish school and then you go to Wonderland. Wonderland was America. It didn't matter what you were going to study. Every child that grew up in the 90s had that dream, at least that I knew. You went to school and things went very well for you if after secondary school you got to go to university in America. And I know God broke that dream apart because, yes, He wanted me to have a very global life, but He didn't want it to start off with me not knowing who I was. And in the process of now being, back as a 15-year-old in Nigeria, my heart was totally broken. I thought God had let me down. I had free time in my hands, and I said, okay, I'm going to spend this time doing what I enjoy, and I enjoyed making hair. So I enrolled in a beauty school, and I learned to be a professional hairstylist and a beautician. And the moment I began studying to be a cosmetologist and a beauty therapist, I came alive. It was like everything inside of me, something that God had placed inside me, came alive. The other thing that happened at the same time was I was in a church called Revival Word Church, and I was part of the music team. And every week, the pastor preached. We, as the music team, just decided that we would write a song, a new song, to kind of teach or reteach whatever the pastor taught. So I became one of the lead songwriters. Even though I was the youngest member of the team, I would write songs about what the message was. And so two parts of my life were birthed at the same time, not necessarily towards any dream. I was just excited to express things that were inside of me. And I guess that's where the journey started.
So fundamentally, you're a creative person.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what did you start doing before you came into photography? I mean, did Kush come out of the revival, the choir in revival?
Well, Kush came out of University of Lagos. Okay. I was part of the Rock Foundation. I was music director for a while. And then me and two of other ladies, by accident, just started making music together. If you remember, I said that I had started writing music way before university in my church, and I never stopped. So when I got into school, I started writing, and then I was a floater. I didn't have accommodation, so once in a while I would float in Lara George's room, and they would end up just making music spontaneously, and there was such a flow. And then the same thing happened with about a year after, and she'd come into my room, and I would write, a few rap lines, and she'd write, and then three of us came together. And gradually, that's how Kush started. It wasn't something that was planned. It was just one day we needed to get on a stage, and we didn't have a name. And my pastor at the time, Pastor Paul, your brother, was preaching Kush, the time of the black man. And we decided, oh, that's a nice name for a band, And then because we needed the title at about the time the message was going on. We picked on the name Kush, and then we gave it an acronym for kinetically ushering salvation to hearts and homes. And so everything happened at the same time. But then with the photography, happened just about the time that Kush got named, because I picked up a camera only to photograph the hairstyles that I did. But I made really great photographs. And then somebody introduced me to your father-in-law, and about this older photographer who made these beautiful images. And I was drawn to that because remember, I was a hairstylist and I made hair. And then I saw a picture of a friend of mine, and the photo was way more beautiful than how she looked. And I felt, I need to know how to do this. And hence my love for photography began. And all at the same time as the music.
Okay. You know. So now you are mainly into photography.
Yeah, and music, music is, I'm a full-time photographer, but music is what I live. It's how I pray. It's how I express my thoughts. So every couple of years I'll bring out a project, but it's not something that I do full-time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let's go into photography.
Yes, sir.
You were out filming or doing a shoot, and I don't know the story, but you can fill in the gaps. You saw this girl called Olajumoke who had a thing of bread on her head.
Yes.
What happened?
Very strange day. It was that shoot. I remember that I was supposed to photograph an artist, Tiny Temper, in his hotel room at the Whitbaker, and for some reason I just thought it wasn't a good idea. Like, if I shot him in a hotel in Whitbaker, I might as well have shot him in London. How would people know that he came to Nigeria? So I remember I called the publisher of the newspaper, Unduka Obagman, and I was like, can't we just bring him over to my studio and then we can take a walk in Yaba? And then let's have him in the streets, let him engage with people. And then let's take photographs of him in Lagos. Otherwise, a nice, hotel could have been anywhere in the world and nobody would know he was in Lagos. And so he came, and he came late. He was meant to have come in the morning. He didn't show up till about 3:30. And so that was why we were even at that part of my estate at that time, because we were meant to have done this earlier on in the day. So it was all by pure coincidence that she walked in as we were heading to the next scene, which was the veranda of a friend of mine. She walked into our scene by accident, and everybody was shooing her away and asking her to leave or pass by quickly. She was confused. And then I remember I signaled if it was okay to photograph her, because I thought I wanted to photograph her on the streets. It's very normal on my street to have someone carrying bread or someone carrying a car or something. So I asked her, and she said it was okay. But we didn't even know that we had done anything, significant. If I remember very well, none of us talked about the bread seller. It was just an image out of the many images we had made on the day, until I started to edit the images. And then I thought, this girl is very fine, And then I decided to just pay a little bit more attention. I noticed that she was wearing a red dress. It wasn't as red as I wanted, so I, of course, in Photoshop, made it even more dramatic. And I sent in the photograph as one of the many images. But then this girl totally outshone our superstar. And everybody wanted to know who she was. Everybody thought she was a model. And everybody, was basically praising her, the model who had the ability to balance all that bread on her head. And I was like, no, she's not a model. She was just passing by, and we happened to find her. And if you guys think she's a model, maybe we should find her and make her one. And that's how the whole story began.
Was it difficult to get her to find her?
2 days. It wasn't very hard because I had my assistants go to where we had photographed her, and we left the message saying if anyone ever saw the lady, we described her and showed them the picture, they should direct her to my studio. And apparently, when I put it out on social media that I was looking for her, everyone was looking for her. So before she even came to the area, people were whipping out their phones saying, is this you? There's someone looking for you. So 2 days after, someone brought her up to my studio, but I didn't have any big plans. I was just going to show her the magazine, probably give her some money and thank her and tell her people thought she was beautiful. And then she started to tell me her story. So I'd asked her if she was staying with relatives, because in my mind, if you were selling bread, you probably lived down the road with your mom or your aunt, and I'd already figured her out in my mind. And she said no, she didn't live with relatives. She actually lived at the bakery with her 16-month-old daughter. Now, my babies were also 16 months old at the time. So having her daughter be the same age as my twins immediately made a quick connection. So I was like, oh, great, you stay in the bakery. Sure, they must have a hostel. She said, no, we all sleep on the floor, and then she came from Osun State, and she just came to Hawk Bread, and she knows no one in Lagos. So she stays on the floor of the bakery. She leaves her daughter with someone, and immediately I felt like, okay, this is someone I need to help. But I didn't even know how I was going to help her. I said, you know what? Do you know a HOTM model? Do you know what it means to be a model? She goes, does it mean to dance? I said, no. It means when you look on billboards and you look at products, you see faces. You have a very pretty face. You could make money that way. But I would need to get permission from because I thought she was underage. She looks young. I need to get permission from your parents. And she said, no, I'm married. So I called her husband and I asked him, I said, I found your wife. I don't know why, but I think I'd like to photograph her. And I'm not making any promises, but something good may come out of it for her. And he, eventually gave me the go-ahead. And I made these photographs. I remember when we were having the photographs done, my husband came in and said, okay, so you're making these photographs. What are you going to do with the photographs? I had no idea. I had no plans. I was like, oh, maybe I'll throw it online and, maybe open an account for her and people could give to her. And something inside of me knew that that was a bad idea because she wasn't a charity case. She didn't come to me begging. And I remember a friend of mine who is a journalist was like, oh, imagine if they put her on the cover of This Day. And I'm like, but how would I convince them? But I tried, and I called the publisher, I called my editor, and they agreed eventually to put her photographs on the cover of This Day magazine as a sequel to the photographs of Tiny Temper, where she was, where she made her debut appearance as the bread seller. And the whole of Nigeria went crazy for these images.
So where's she now? What's happening in her life now?
Well, I think initially it was overwhelming for her because she didn't understand, just how big and how inspiring her story was. When her story first came out, I thought, oh, great, people responded to it. So I thought that by the next morning, people have moved on. And many people stepped in to do very significant things for her. I think the most important thing was Stanbic IBTC, creating an educational fund, an education fund for her children. And so they have their school fees paid from primary school all the way to university. Wow. And I think this is the biggest thing. In fact, I keep saying that maybe all of this was not for her. Maybe it was just for her daughters. And maybe God just wanted to find a way to get them out of the situation they were in, because now they have access to good education all the way to university. She also has started a new life as a model. She is the ambassador for Payport. There's a bakery in Abuja and a free offer from Poise, where she's learning etiquette and how to speak and how to, because she's now some kind of public figure.
She could be an international model.
Yeah, I heard the news came out that she was the most Googled subject in Nigeria. Wow. in 2016, But I think she's coming to terms with it, and she's learning that this is her life, and she's understood that these are opportunities that God has made for her. And at least from the people who have mentored her, telling her to keep it simple, stay humble, whatever heart that you had that opened this, just stay that way. Stay simple and and take advantage of the opportunities.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break now. But when we come back, I'd like to ask you about, this was ministry.
Yeah.
And so, Nigerians are very generous people, but I want to know what, in terms of ministry, you felt doing all this. So we'll be back in a moment. Viewers, stay tuned. We'll be back with TY Bello in a moment. back to the heart of the matter where we're talking with TY Bello today. TY, back to this ministry that you've been doing. Tell us about it. I mean, you naturally were inclined to do what you could to help, because that is what the Christian does. That is what salt and light is all about. Tell us about it.
This is interesting that you asked this question, because a lot of people have always asked me, so why did you step back from the Olajumoke story really quickly? Why didn't you, engage more and go out on more interviews with her and, just kind of revel in the limelight a bit? But then what they don't understand is this is what we do. This is what life is about. This is what I've been taught to do. You see a situation where you can be light, you shine it. You see a situation that needs salt, you flavor it. It's just how we're meant to live, and it's nothing out of our normal everyday life. So for me, if my art form in some way can shed light and become a platform to make life better or become a voice for someone else or a group of people, then I feel fulfilled in my work. And that's what I aspire for my work to do at every point in time, not just to be a platform for me or my name or my brand, but to always be a voice for something God is doing, or for a group of people or people that need that light to be on them. And I think that's what happened in this scenario, And I was very quick to say, okay, God, I'm so honored and I'm so grateful. So what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
So what is the next thing?
Well, the next thing for me is, it's simple. It's, I'm still exactly where I was when I was 13, asking God, why am I here? I'm still asking that question. I'm constantly asking, okay, I've made music. What is the new sound? Is there more music in me? And what is it meant to do? What stories am I meant to tell? What experiences am I able to make people connect with spiritually through my sound? So that's where I am right now, trying to find a new voice for my art photography. Can I become a voice for women? Can I deal on the issues of royalty? Can I deal on the issues that Nigeria is facing conceptually? Can I shed light? Can I bring a solution? So these are the same questions. I'm still asking questions every time in my place of prayer like I was 13. What am I meant to do now? And I'm still there.
And that's so very important, because that's what life is all about. I don't think we will ever get to the point where we stop asking questions. Now let's talk a little bit about your music side, because you're not producing music to make money. That may very well be one of the consequences, but you want to inspire. So what's the message that you're trying to pass across through your music?
It changes every time. Music for me has always been that tool to encourage myself. It's like, when the Bible says, and David encouraged himself. Whenever I'm going through anything, the songs would come to me to encourage me. And then I'll sing these songs to other people and they would break down crying. Or they would tell me, oh my God, TY, that song you sang over the phone. After you sang that song, this and this and this.
You sing songs over the phone?
Yes, I do. Okay. And maybe just something I scribbled down and I'll sing to a friend. And I realized that my songs basically inspire. And at different seasons, depending on where I am, what they pour over me, they would pour over a nation. So I've always looked at ways for my songs to speak what was necessary for my nation. And I've always prayed for God to always give me a message. And I'm never in a hurry. If he gives me one song for my nation in 2 years, that's okay. I'm grateful enough. I already have another life. So I'm always very grateful that I make music at all. I don't take it for granted, ever. I'm always very excited about it. I'm right now in the process of making new music, and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. And I'm basically taking other people through what it means to worship, not as music, but as a life, a life experience. How worship is a life experience. That's how we grow, that's how we rule, that's how we fight, that's how we reign. We do everything on our bellies and our faces. And I'm trying to make music now that that kind of takes other people into my sacred place, pretty much.
So tell us about your latest album.
My latest I'm working on right now. The last album that I released was very interesting. I was on my way to deliver my twin boys. I was on my way to the airport, to the hospital, and I was thinking, okay, it was very intense. I was thinking, what if I don't make it out of this? I just recorded an album. What if nobody ever hears my songs? And so I tweeted the music. I put it on SoundCloud, and I gave the music out for free. And it's called The Morning Songbook, and it was just 10 songs that I wrote to God in my place of devotion. There was a period in time where I sang my prayers. I would, when it was time to pray, I wouldn't pray. I would just write songs to God, and 10 of those songs made it onto an album. And I remember I put it out there. I never promoted it, and people have connected to the songs in very interesting ways.
Tell us about one of them.
I know, for instance, Yahweh.
Okay.
There's a song called Yahweh, and I remember I wrote this song. The first lines of this song were written before the Greenland album. I remember I had just written, da 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 tu, and that da 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 tu stuck in my head for almost 7-8 years, until one day I remember Wale Adefarasin, was passing through England, and I decided to flesh these songs. And as he came to the studio, I fleshed out, oh Yahweh, and I basically wrote a song about how our hearts are meant to worship God, about how we were crafted so. It's almost like every human being was meant to express worship. It's just the way we were born. Even when we don't know God, we would worship a car, or ourselves, or our name, or a house. We were born to worship. And it's because we were made by God, and we were made to worship Him. And this song is just a song that expresses that it's the most natural thing to worship Yahweh.
I don't hear very much of you on stages singing in. Why?
Very simple. I'm not saying I'll never...
You're not a performer.
I'm not a performer. Well, I am.
Yeah, okay.
I am a performer. I just, in the last 10 years, decided that I wanted to be a photographer, and I still wanted to make music. And I knew it was impossible to have a full-fledged music career and still make images, because images take your time. And so I decided that I was going to make music, but I was going to create music. And that was how I was going to engage with music. I wasn't going to go on stages, because that would mean I'd rehearse, and that would mean I'd have to have a band, and that would mean time. So maybe, we'll never know. I'm just going to go with it.
Now, going back to photography for a moment, you've photographed very, very important people all over, at least Africa, if not other parts of the world. What are some of the experiences you've had photographing people like heads of state and so on?
Being a photographer, I feel like it's like my God-given CIA mission, or my God-given university, all at the same time, because I get to come very, very close to people who are, prior to that experience, just a mystery. I get to, for instance, one of my most memorable experience is photographing the late Emir of Kano. And I remember going in, knowing that it was a God experience. I just wanted to find God in this experience. And I remember when the first day I got to photograph at the palace, as he was coming from the mosque, the gunshots started to go off. And the gunshots started to go off.
Did they do that?
Yes, they did that. And initially, I thought that maybe we were under attack. And I noticed that as the gunshots went off, people started to chant. And I can't remember the words, but it sounded like, Jara, Judge. And I was like, what are they saying? And they're saying, adjust yourself. The king, he's coming. Adjust yourself. He's coming. And I remember I had gone into when I was invited back to the palace, I had gone in dressed in a proper beautiful hijab. My head was covered. I was dressed very appropriately. And more, he would let me photograph behind the scenes. I was allowed into the council with the elders. I was allowed, I remember one of the guards were like, you must have angels because no photographer has been let this far in. How much more
that's
a woman.
part of your gift,
Yeah.
being able to get in.
To get in. It's favor, but also because God wants to show me things. And I remember even when I was there, he wouldn't talk to me, you know, which was great because he would talk to someone and the person would tell me, His Majesty has said we can proceed now. And I thought that God was trying to show me himself and how I must honor him and how, you know, I must adjust myself when he walks into a room and how I must honor him the way a king is to be honored. And God told me, no, that's not about me. That's about you. You are royalty. You need to understand that you are royalty and you need to understand what it means. So I will take you before kings so that you can learn the ways of royalty. So these are little things that happen to me. So whenever I'm before a king, whether it's a president or a governor or an MD, a CEO, whatever, monarchs, I pay attention and I watch how they behave and I pay attention to the culture. I honor it and I respect it and I photograph it and I go back and I think about everything that I've observed. So this is just one of the special things about being a photographer.
Now, I guess we have some of our viewers who are listening to TY Bello and they're young, not yet started into a career, and they want to be like TY Bello. What would you tell them?
Don't be ashamed and don't be afraid of being confused. You know, that confusion is going to be the vehicle of self-discovery and the vehicle for God discovery. If you have everything all figured out, you wouldn't ask as many questions. So it's never too late to start to ask questions. I'm still asking questions. So I would say pay a little bit more attention to who you are and who you've been made to be, and less attention to what you consider success to be or what's in or this is what's happening. Because I find that, you know, photography, when I decided I was going to be a photographer, people thought I was out of my mind because there weren't too many examples of successful photographers that people knew. So I knew very quickly that I had to quickly be a good example of what a successful photography is. But to young people now, I say, don't look at what's already been charted. Chart a new way, and it's only by asking, you know, only by asking.
Now, let's move away from photography for a moment.
Okay.
You are a music producer, or you produce music, let me put it that way. You're a photographer, and you're a mother of twins. Amongst all the other things you do, how do you get a work-life balance, especially since the twins came along?
Well, the twins have been the best things to happen to us. You know, they've added more fun and more joy to everything else, and they've given me a new perspective on life. They've changed my creative life. You know, okay. I don't think I'm the same photographer that I was.
Better?
Better by far. More sensitive, more appreciative of how I see. You know, because there's always a quest for growth, and that quest for growth prior to now always caused me to beat down on myself and how I worked, and I wanted to get better, and I felt the only way to get better was to throw away what I had done in the past. I think having the kids, you know, in many ways, just looking at them, have let me see there must be something special about how you see. They've made me go back and look at my work, and all that time not photographing, because when I was pregnant, I wasn't making images. When they were much younger, I wasn't making images. So I had a long period of time where I wasn't creating at all. And it made me ask many, many questions about myself and how I create and why I do the things I do. And just looking at them has helped me unlock new ways of growing, you know. So I think they're the biggest blessing to me in life, but also the biggest blessing to me as a creative person.
For the twins, what are their names?
Christian and Christopher.
Christian and Christopher.
Yes.
Wonderful. I'm sure that everybody wishes them well,
Thank you.
and prays that you will just have more and more time
Amen.
to be able to do family, career, and whatever the Lord places in your heart.
Amen.
So once again, thank you so much for coming to the heart of the matter.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, it's been our pleasure to bring TY Bello to you on this episode. We'll be back again next week with another episode. So until then, stay blessed.